Good evening, everyone. We are here with another news roundup, interactive news roundup. We're going to talk about some news. We're going to take your comments on the year. So you should write to me on Twitter, @Lookner on Twitter. Good to see everyone. Thanks to our moderators who are in our chat rooms. Mark Helton's there. Sarah Joy is moderating. Thank you. They're there moderating. Linda Belk is there. Thank you also for the Super Hearts. Tammy Just, thank you. I got to open up our other chat rooms too. We got Kin Picky moderating in Twitch. Thank you. And hello to our viewers like Swan Brown and Rochelle Cook on Facebook, Kimberly Barr, Angie, Joanne Gabrielle, and others on YouTube, Debbie, and Lab Golden in Periscope, Wendell, and High and Mighty on Twitch, and others. All right. Hey, I want to start by talking about this terrible accident, which you might have heard about by now. But this crazy crash, this is from San Diego Union Tribune, but this happened near the Mexico border. So 13 people were killed. A truck hit an SUV, and the SUV had like dozens of people in it. I'm not sure if there's been any updates about what exactly happened here. It kind of sounds like, given that it was close to the border and it was an SUV with dozens of people in it, that, you know, maybe like some kind of illegal trafficking thing going on, human trafficking perhaps. But I just pulled up this article from San Diego Union Tribune. So this is really terrible. This happened this morning. But I want to see if there's any updates here about more details about what was going on with this SUV. A collision between a big rig and an SUV carrying more than 24 people. There were more than 24 people in the SUV near the U.S.-Mexico border, killed at least 13 and injured several others. Both the number of people traveling in the SUV and the number of victims were unclear. One hospital source said 28 people were in the vehicle. A source with California Highway Patrol said there were 25 people in the vehicle. It's a Ford Expedition SUV, which is built for 7 or 8 travelers. He said the vehicle was carrying at least one teenager. So if you look up Ford Expedition SUV, let's look this up. That's the kind of car it was. I don't know which particular model it was, but it's like one of these. Let me just pick one. Let me pick one. I'll pick this one. And I want to see like an interior view. So this is a 2021 Expedition XLT. Can I find some more pictures of the interior? So I guess would it have 3 rows of seats maybe? I mean, this picture makes it look like 3 rows of seats, front, middle, and back. Seating for 8. Seating for 8. It's not even, when I first heard the story, I was like, well, that's a crazy amount of people, but maybe it's one of these like extra big, SUV things. It's not even like that big. Seating for 8. So it's really crazy. Over 24 people were in there. I don't know how they were, how they all got in there. No, Devotee says trafficking is usually against one's will. Not sure about this one. Oh yeah, so I mean, basically what I should have said is something like, well, I don't know. I think trafficking, the definition of trafficking is just, isn't it basically like illegal business activity? Did traffic, deal, or trade in something illegal? Oh. Human trafficking, Homeland Security, involves the use of force, fraud, or coercion to obtain some type of labor and commercial sex act. Yeah, I mean, look, it could be, I don't know if, I guess trafficking implies that somebody is making people go somewhere. It also could have been, people. I wouldn't be surprised if it turns out to be some sort of illegal thing involving people coming from Mexico. I don't know if that's the case. That would be my guess, given that there's over 24 people in this Ford Expedition SUV. CHP said 12 people died at the scene, another died at the hospital. 4 people were airlifted by helicopter to a health center, to a hospital, including the big rig driver. 3 of them are in intensive care. Okay. The age of the people ranged inside in the vehicle ranged from 16 to 55. And several of the passengers were ejected onto the roadway. Well, obviously they weren't all wearing seatbelts because there's only 8 seatbelts or whatever. And it's just crazy. That was posted by Pete Wilgorin. Right. Dart Q says, I know there weren't 28 seatbelts available for them all. Crazy Auto says, how on earth did the car's suspension hold up? I hear Cricket says they must have removed the seats. That's an interesting question. Did they remove the seats? That's interesting. Interesting question, I hear Crickets. Interesting point. Oh, Jessica says, I didn't see the news conference. Jessica says all the seats were removed except the driver's seat. Does it say this in this article? Doesn't even say that in this article. This happened in Imperial County. Let me see if I can find an article that talks about the seats thing. I didn't see. Hold on one second here. Which is the CHPL? Is it CHPL Centro? All right, well, they didn't post on their Facebook. CHPL Centro. They didn't post, CHP did not post about this on their Twitter. Oops, sorry. Let me see if I can find something about the seats being removed. Oh, here's something from USA Today has an update. They talk about the seats. Okay, so very sad, at least 13 dead after truck slams into SUVs carrying 25 near the U.S.-Mexico border. I'm going to show you on the map where this happened too. It's unclear who caused the crash or whether the SUV driver halted for a stop sign at the intersection. Law enforcement spent the day investigating the scene. The older model Ford Expedition should fit only 6 people, meaning almost 20 additional passengers were unsafely riding inside at the time of the crash. Obviously, that vehicle is not meant for that many people. The driver of the SUV was a 22-year-old man from Mexicali, a city in northern Mexico that hugs the U.S. border near the El Centro region in California. So the driver was a 22-year-old man from Mexicali, according to the CHP. The driver of the big rig sustained moderate injuries and was among the patients taken to the hospital. That's the 1997 Ford Expedition. This is not a very big car. It's not one of these SUVs that's just absolutely gigantic. Ann M. says Imperial Valley is highly agricultural. Doreen is suggesting maybe people were head to foot. Oh, I was going to show you the thing about the seats. Investigators were still piecing together why more than 24 people were crammed into the vehicle, where they were coming from and where they were going. They did find identification for some of the passengers in the vehicle, but wouldn't say whether all were U.S. citizens. Watson said the seats were missing from the SUV, and the only seats still in the vehicle at the time of the crash were the driver's seat and the front passenger seat. I don't know if they were cut out or removed, but they were not in the vehicle. So the rear seats were not in the vehicle. Well, that makes sense given that they fit that many people in there. Let's see here. A harvest is underway in the region where farm workers will collect most of the winter lettuce and other leafy greens eaten in the United States. And I want to show you where the intersection is too. This is the intersection of State Road 115 and Norrish Road. So let's find out where this happened. State Road 115 and Norrish Road. I believe it's right here, if I have the right place. Yes, I believe it is. Let me just make sure here. Yes, this is where it happened. So there's California. This is it's east of San Diego, close to the border of Mexico. There's a Mexico border right there. There is right here. There's the border. And this happened on this road at this intersection right here. So if we put... So you have this main road, and you have an intersection, but let me just put the guy down there. And ooh, can we not even see? Oh, you know what? It's like you can't even, on Google Maps, they don't even have a street view of this. I don't think, do they? Or do they? Let's see. 115. Oh, they do. Is this Norrish Road? Okay, so if this is correct, I believe, hold on, Norrish Road. This is exactly where it happened. Norrish Road in the 115. So the idea would be, oops, here we go. Look at this. The idea would be that the truck is, hold on, let's go down this way. That the truck, I believe, was going on the north-south road. And then, yeah, because there was a stop sign. There's a stop sign here and here. There's a stop sign there, see? And, I mean, it looks like that the SUV just pulled out onto the street, onto the highway, probably right in front of the, I'm guessing right in front of the truck. I don't know, though. I don't know for sure, but that's what the intersection looks like. Dave says it's in the middle of farmlands. Johnny Fernandez says farm workers only answer. Lithrone says failing brakes. So something Lithrone raises the possibility of is that you could have a car that if the SUV had failing brakes, it wasn't able to stop at the stop sign. Andrea Franco says, I live in El Centro and I've traveled that road lots of times. Montpelier said LA Times said passenger seat cut out at time of crash. The quote we read in that other article said that they didn't know if it was cut out or just if they didn't, it just wasn't there. They weren't exactly sure what happened to it, but it was not there. The quote from the article was about the seats. Watson said the seats were missing from the SUV and only still in the vehicle at the time of the crash. The only seats still in the vehicle were the front seat and front passenger seat. I don't know if they were cut out or removed, but they were they were out of the vehicle. I want to also see if there's anything more. So just again, the big rig smashed into the side of the SUV before 6:15 p.m. at the intersection of State Route 115 and Norris Road near Holtville, about 50 miles west of Arizona and 10 miles north of the border. It's unclear who caused the crash or whether the SUV driver halted for a stop sign at the intersection. And the actual picture that we showed you was this one here. By the way, the actual number of dead now is, it's not exactly clear. This was earlier from Pete Wilgorn, but it's around 27 people were in the SUV. It's not clear exactly how many. And USA Today says at least 13 did. Fran Stein says, with so many people, it's a wonder the SUV could move. Richie says 19 people overweight. I do wonder, that SUV was a 1997 Ford Expedition, right? According to the article. 1997 Ford Expedition. KBB. Do they have pictures of it? Photos. So it's like this. It's like a car like that. So some people are suggesting that with so many people in the car, it might affect the driving. If you have like 25 people in a car made for however many people, 7, 6, I don't know. Tony Del Monte, they said 3 people were in critical condition, but they didn't give conditions of all the people injured. Darth Hater says you'd have to remove the seats to get that many people in there. Now, certainly, condolences to all the families of the people who passed away and thoughts with all the people who were injured. It's just terrible. I'm going to check out some more articles on this. I do want to take some more comments, though. Ice Quain says 140 pounds times 28 people is approximately 4,000 pounds. I don't think it's rated for that, maybe. What is there? Is there like a maximum weight that it can carry? Like if you type in like maximum weight a Ford Expedition can carry. I don't know what'll come up on Google. This is the weight of the truck, not how much it can carry. How much weight can you put in an SUV? See, look, this is very interesting, actually. This is very interesting. ABC News article. This is from 2006. 2006, whatever. The SUV was in 1997. The article says, look at this. According to Consumer Reports calculations, most SUVs can carry more than 1,100 pounds in combined passenger and cargo weight. This is from 2006. So that's not that much. I mean, so you know, our viewer said, you know, Ice Quain. If you say, even if there's 25 people in the car and they each weigh, you know, 140 pounds is light if they're adults. So if there's 25 people in the car and they each weigh 150 pounds, well, some of them might be women. They might be, you know, they might weigh less. We'll say 140. I'm getting my calculator out here. Hold on a second. Let me get my calculator out. 25 times 140 equals, 25 people who weigh 140 pounds. And there very well might have been people who weighed a lot more than that. But 25 people who weigh 140 pounds is 3,500 pounds. And this article says, according to Consumer Reports calculations, many SUVs can carry more than 1,100 pounds. But the load capacity of a number of SUVs is right around 1,000 pounds. So if you're sticking, you know, 3,500, 4,000 pounds of people in one of those, what does it do to the truck? I don't know. It's a great question. But that's a big excess of just weight. I didn't realize that was like the maximum cargo weight. Our mail says 1997 expedition payload is 1,800 pounds. I guess I could do that. I could look that up. 1997 expedition payload. Oh, there it is. Well, there you go. Ford expedition 1997 payload around 2,000 pounds. This would have been much exceeded by, it sounds like it was more than 25 people. As I said, if it was 25 people, and it might have been more than that, and it was 140 pounds each, and it very well might have been more than that, that itself would be about 3,500 pounds. The Myra says, dragging bottom, I can imagine the brakes would go out. Yeah, it's not towing capacity. You don't want towing capacity because it's not towing. We're talking about the capacity actually inside the truck. Oh, but let me say this. But they removed the seats. So some of the weight was removed. I don't know how much the seats weigh. But remember, you do get a little extra weight because they did remove the seats. They removed the middle and the back seat. What happens if you put too much cargo in a SUV? Excess weight can cause your wheels to bulge out and heat up, increasing the risk of a blowout. That's from Mapping Megan. Ooh, let's see this. How about Edmonds? Blah, 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 blah. Oh. What happens if you overload a truck? This is from General Spring. It's not really a truck. Well, it's an SUV. You can damage your truck. You may create hazardous driving scenarios. What does this say? Tires. Without a properly functioning suspension system, your tires will struggle as you attempt to move large loads. This can lead to premature wear that increases the chances of punctures and blowouts. Axles and alignment. Replacing cracked leaf springs, broken center pins, and worn tires is a hassle, blah, blah, blah. Fixing blah, 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 blah. Leaf springs. Each leaf spring is rated for a specific load rate. That weight and exceeding that weight will put too much stress on the suspension system and shocks. A failure of the leaves or springs will impact the suspension system. Center bolts. You could have a problem with the center bolt. So I don't know. It's an interesting idea. I'm not a car expert, but it's an interesting idea some of you have that putting that many people in the car, which would seemingly greatly exceed the weight capacity, might have affected the vehicle. Joy Trujillo is talking about the difficulty of stopping with increased weight. Yeah, I wonder about that too. It would certainly take more effort to stop the truck. Diana L. says, with that many people, someone's hand or foot could have hit gas pedal or blocked brake. Crazy Auto says, one or more ball joints could have easily snapped. Oil Man is wondering about drug runners. Could it have been a drug-related thing? Steel Kicking says maybe it couldn't have stopped. Idea to Go thinks that they might have reinforced. He says this was planned so they would have removed the seats and reinforced the suspension. I want to also see, just want to read another article about this. Katie Beth says they could have been migrant workers traveling for work. Yeah, that's true. Although it's weird. I mean, it's like if it's people who, I don't know how this system works, but like if it's people who regularly have worked in the U.S. before, maybe it's people from Mexico who come to work seasonally in the U.S. Is that what they normally do? Get into a truck with, 25 people? Angie says, I have moved seats in that type of car. They are not that heavy. Okay, let's see the LA Times article. So again, this happened today. We're looking into this. This happened today. This was, oops, let me do it this way. This was in Imperial County, California, near the Mexico border, about 10 miles away from Mexico, east of San Diego, a SUV carrying over 24 people. Looks like around 27, 28 people, from 25 or 20, between 25 and 28 people, looks like, was T-boned, as one of our viewers said, by a truck. And it was at this intersection, and it looks like, from the description of what happened in the articles, what you can see is this is the intersection where it happened. So there's this highway here. I was reading the speed limit was 55. I'm not sure, but I would not be surprised. I'm looking for a speed limit sign here. But anyways, you have this highway here, and then you have this street that runs into it, and you have a stop sign here and a stop sign here. So it looks like one of the articles was suggesting that the SUV, they didn't know if the SUV didn't stop at the stop sign, but the SUV just got out into the road while the truck was going by. Hang on a second here. So let's see if there's anything different in the LA Times article. Collision between a big rig and an SUV, carrying more than 24 people, killed at least 13, injured several others. So again, we've heard some different estimates, different numbers about how many people in the SUV. It sounds like at least 25 people. The SUV had only 2 seats for the driver and front passenger, no other seats in the rest of the vehicle. Let's see. The driver of the SUV was a man from Mexicali, Mexico. And Mexicali is right across the border, right? Sorry, let's do it this way. I'll show you where Mexicali is. If this works. Hang on here. Yeah, this is the border. The driver is from the city Mexicali, which is right across the border. It's interesting, though, like there's a main road that goes, if you're, well, I don't know. There's this road and there's this road. So, but maybe, I don't know if you can cross the border here. Oh, that is it looks like a crossing. Yeah, international border line. See that it's international border line. And the driver was from Mexicali, which is here. And it happened here. I mean, maybe they just drove up from Mexicali through one of these border crossings. Let's see. So again, 4 people were airlifted. Including the big rig driver. The big rig driver suffered moderate injuries. 2 others involved in the crash are in intensive care, including one who's in critical condition. You have 2 other people who were transported to a hospital and then were airlifted. So I'm sure there's other serious injuries here. Watson described the crash scene as chaotic. He said officers found people who had been ejected onto the pavement and others wandering around the site. Some were ejected, some were pulled from the wreckage, and some walking wounded got out on their own. He said first responders had to cut the sole passenger seat out of the vehicle. Wow. They had to cut the passenger seat out of the vehicle. So basically, at most, only 2 people were wearing seatbelts. The SUVs, yeah, the SUV was headed west on Norrish Road at the intersection of State Highway 415 and for unknown reasons drove into the path of the big rig, which was headed north on the highway. The speed limit for large trucks on that stretch of road is 55 miles an hour, and the truck T-boned the SUV. We're not sure if the vehicle ran the stop sign or if the vehicle stopped and entered unsafely. We're still unsure. For decades, there have been concerns about the high death toll in crashes along the California-Mexico border. Many of the wrecks involve immigrants trying to cross into the U.S., with a significant number of crashes during chases by American authorities. There is no evidence this collision involved a chase. In agricultural areas of California, such as Imperial County in the Central Valley, there have also been concerns about deaths involving farm workers packed into vehicles. A series of horrific crashes involving farm workers in vans in the Central Valley sparked legislation in the early 2000s requiring vans and buses that transport 9 or more workers to be equipped with passenger seat belts and receive annual safety certification from the CHP. Oops, sorry. For some reason, Siri's talking. So where is it here? The SUV was headed west on Norrish Road, and the big rig was heading north. So the SUV was going... Hang on. Where did my pen go? The SUV was going this way. Oops. Let's get rid of that. The SUV was going this way, and the truck was going this way. Angie says, I think they were just workers trying to make a living. Richie says, most likely just people trying to get to work. Chris Sullivan says the brakes on the SUV might have not been up to snuff. Paul McEwen says, drive by there all the time. It's in the middle of nowhere. Trucks drive like 65. Now, you'd think it wouldn't be the case that, you'd think you'd be able to see a truck coming, right? Because it's not like it's, if you look at the view, so, the SUV would have been, the SUV would have been looking down this way. There shouldn't be anything obscure. If there's a truck coming towards you, you should be able to see it. There's nothing in the way of seeing the truck coming north on the road. Lab Golden says, this is not surprising, was predictable, will happen again. It happened in the morning. I want to say it happened around 8, 9 a.m.? Let's see here. Oh, no, it was earlier, actually. Sorry. It was 6:16 a.m. So I don't know. 6:16 a.m. The town it's near is Holtville. When does the sun rise? Holtville, CA, sunrise. 6:06. So it was after sunrise. It wasn't dark still. It was 10 minutes after sunrise. K-Jack says if the driver was distracted, he wouldn't have seen the truck. Ice Queen says you'd need 3 brake pads to stop that load. Oh, Idea to Go says that they prearrange and bribe the custom agent. So, yeah, obviously, right. So I was talking about the truck crossing the border, but obviously the truck wouldn't be crossing the border with 25 people in it. But the driver was from Mexicali across the border. So I don't. Did the truck? I'm wondering if that. Well, I'm sure that they'll look and see if the truck recently crossed the border. Ann M says probably couldn't stop with that weight. Nicole says this was a ride to work, so sad. Yeah, I wonder if they had gone like in this kind of vehicle before. So, yeah, bad, but a bad situation. A lot of questions. Vroom said, were there any children among the dead or injured? All I've heard about is one teenager was in the truck. That's the only younger person I've heard about so far. Although you might think that the fact, I think it was 16 to 55, they said, that was the ages. So the fact that there's no kids maybe suggests that maybe that makes you think more of a work thing than like families coming. I mean, if it was families, you'd expect to see younger people. The people inside the vehicle ranged from 16 to 55. Darren, I can't show the news conference if it's unless it's like a government agency posting it. I can't just show it. If it's a news agency, I can't take their footage. All right. Well, it's really terrible. But like when I see this, I say, well, this can't be this must go on a lot. When I see something like this happen with the truck, where's the picture here? Yeah, there's another picture of it. That's from USA Today. But I just feel like, look at I don't know if you can see the skid. I don't need, look at the skid marks. So that's the highway, right here. And one of the stop signs is over here. It almost looks like, I can't even tell. Like, was the truck going this way and then it hit the SUV here and then or maybe it's going the other direction. I don't know. I can't really get a good feel for this, but this is like off the road on one of the corners of the intersection. It looks like. But you just wonder, is this happen all the is this how a very normal mode of transportation for people? Amazing World thinks these are from the big rig. Yeah, I can't really say with these marks here. I can't really, make much sense of it. It's me, Emily says, couldn't stop due to weight, surprise the driver. Now, look, I don't know, had the driver ever driven with this many people in the truck? Maybe there's a way you have to drive and the person didn't know how to do it. So not good. Take a couple more comments here on that. Ellie Bourne says they go there and work out of migrant housing for the harvest, then go back to Mexico. Ellie Bourne lived in apple picking country for a long time. Me Betty Boop says maybe he was supposed to pick up 7 or 8 crossers and there were 24 waiting. Vu Cabra says seriously 24 people. Well, sounds like it was between 25 and 28 people. Terrell G says must have been rushing and was running late. Yeah, I'm not sure that the driver came. I mean, the driver was from Mexicali, right? It doesn't mean that he drove from there today. And then some of our viewers in Twitch are talking about there's like limits. I don't know the exact situation on the Mexico border right now with COVID and how that has affected things. But as to, look, we don't know exactly who the people were in the truck. Were any of them U.S. citizens or not? Did they live in this country or not? If not, when did they enter? That's all stuff we don't know. Sama says absolutely normal in field work. I don't know if Sama is referring to the practice of packing that many people in trucks. SUVs. Stella Bradshaw says truck driver is devastated, I'm sure. Sama says visibility not great with 24 passengers. Well, I don't know if any of that interfered with the driver's visibility. All right. Well, this is the kind of story where I'd actually love to hear. I'd really like to hear like the updated info. Once they've like done the investigation. If I hear more info about this, I'll post it on Twitter. I'll try to remind myself to check in on this story. There's not like that. There's so many details you want to know, and we just don't know right now. But again, condolences to the families of those who got killed, and thoughts with all the people who were injured. Okay, we're going to move on to a different story now. Hey, I do want to say a quick thank you to Darren Thompson for the Facebook stars. Thank you, Darren. I appreciate that. And thank you, Kenneth Colton, for your support. I appreciate that, Kenneth Colton. And thanks for shouting out the mods, Kenneth Colton. And thank you to the moderators as well. Linda says it probably took hours to extract everyone from that crash. Well, they actually had to cut out the passenger seat, we heard. Yeah, I can't imagine. I mean, this must have been such a bad scene. I mean, at least 13 people died, but it just looked awful. And as we were saying, most people, pretty much everybody, almost everybody, at least most people in that SUV were not wearing seatbelts. Oh, there is something, yeah. A couple of viewers like Kate Moffat talk about the sun. I hadn't processed that. It's a fair point that the sun had just come up, but the truck was driving west. See, the truck was not driving towards sunrise. The truck was driving west. The SUV was driving west. The sun would be rising in the east. So I would think it wasn't a sun issue. Yeah, Flatfoot thinks that perhaps one of the passengers interfered with the driving. I can't say whether any of the was there a passenger seated, with that many people in the vehicle, would you have passengers sitting in the front seat? Was there a passenger sitting at the driver's feet, right? So it's a fair question as to whether, there was some kind of deal with a passenger sitting down there where the pedals were. Maybe there were multiple passengers. You'd think they'd have some passengers sitting up front. Don't know if the driver had a license. Dogs rule, cats rule. I don't know. Haven't seen it being reported. Arizona Jumper says you can be blinded by sun reflecting in side mirror. I'd also would be, did that truck have had a dash cam? I would think it's possible that the truck has a dash cam. Julie Huff says, I think all of the passengers interfered with the driver. King Brenton says, you'd almost think people would have to be sitting on top of each other with 25 to 27 people being in there. Maybe somebody was sitting next to the driver with that many people, although that would be especially risky if you're trying to drive. But see, here's a question. If you're driving, I would think if you're driving around in this truck, you don't want it to look like there's that many people in there, right? Like you can't be driving around with like two people sitting in the driver's seat, because then you're going to just get pulled over probably. So, given that you don't want people to see that many people, I mean, think about that. I don't know if the windows were tinted or whatever, but you don't want somebody to be able to look in and see 25 heads in there. So maybe people had to be on the ground in the front of the car. Just where are you going to put all the people? I mean, it's not just packing 25 people in. I would think you're packing 25 people in a way that you're not going to see you're not going to see a ton of heads of people, because then somebody's going to drive by you and like call the police. Sarah Joy says windows could have been tinted. I don't know if they were, but again, this is that post right here. I mean, I think the thing you'd like would be really interesting to see is, I don't have a good sense of, if you take the seats out, what does the truck look like with X many people in it? The SUV, I mean. All right. Original Revolution says, I can't conceive of how they fit 27 people in there. Well, you guys raised some very interesting points about that story. Some very interesting considerations. All right, we're going to move on to a different story now. I'll also be checking to see if there's any big breaking news while we're on the air. By the way, I just noticed this. I hadn't seen this before. Maybe I should know this. What is the March 4th thing? U.S. Capitol Police says the department is aware of concerning information and intelligence pertaining to March 4th and continues to work with all of our law enforcement partners. Based on the intelligence that we have, the department has taken immediate steps to enhance our security posture and staffing for a number of days, including March 4th. I don't even know what this is. I hadn't even seen this story.
Plans are underway.
Capitol officials to increase security on March 4th due to conspiracy theory. There's no indication that any groups will travel to D.C. to protest or commit acts of violence, the acting sergeant at arms for the House of Representatives said. This is from NBC Washington. U.S. Capitol Police will have additional personnel because of a conspiracy theory about the significance of the date. The acting sergeant at arms for the House of Representatives said they are monitoring information of any potential protests on March 4th, which some have described as the true inauguration day. Scott McFarlane says March 4th is considered true inauguration day by would-be insurrectionists. But the House Sergeant at Arms, who's responsible for the security in the House of Representatives, said there's no indication any groups will travel to D.C. to protest or commit acts of violence. Some followers of QAnon conspiracy theories, it says down here, some followers of QAnon conspiracy theories believe former President Trump will become president again on March 4th. It's the first I've heard of this. Lithrone says, I don't think anything is going to happen. They did post a tweet about it. Dogs rule, cats drool says, wacko Q conspiracy nonsense. Diana L. says they keep moving the date back for Trump to take over. I had not heard about it. Sarah Jess Joy says March 4th was the original inauguration day. Is that true? I didn't even know this. Oh, until the 20th, until 1933, the official day for inaugurations was March 4th, Library of Congress. Here's something is from Forbes. QAnon pushed March 4th as Trump's true inauguration day, but officials don't expect violence. Okay. That's from Forbes. QAnon backers believe March 4th is the true inauguration day for Trump's second term. Their baseless theory holds that the United States government secretly became a corporation in 1871, meaning all presidents since Ulysses Grant have not been legitimate, making Trump the 19th U.S. president on March 4th. There you go. All right. Well, I had not heard of this, so now I know. Now I know what's going on with it. Hang on one second here. Hang on one second. I'm not hearing any kind of reporting that seriously thinks that there's going to be like violence. Wheelie HD says that's Wheelie's 60th birthday on March 4th. Happy early birthday. Stella Bradshaw says no information on Gab. Sama says they've been talking about it since December. All right. I only brought it up because I saw this tweet. This is the only reason I brought it up, is because I hadn't seen this tweet today, and I saw this tweet from the Capitol Police. Oh. Okay, let's move along. Be civil in the chat or you will be timed out. Thanks again to our moderators. We got Sarah Joy and Mark Helt in there. Thank you. Maria B., Linda Belk, Kin Picky, thank you. Duxor, Ellieborn, Maddie Mags. Thanks to all our moderators. All right, let's move on. Let's move on from that. Let's move on from that. Hey, I want to discuss this for a second. This was, I am encouraged by this news. Biden says U.S. will have vaccine supply for all adults by May and prioritizes teachers. I mean, if all adults had vaccine available by end of May, that I'd be happy about that. NPR. President Biden said today that the U.S. will produce enough vaccines for every adult in the U.S. by the end of May, while making a fresh push to vaccinate school staff over the next month. We're now on track to have enough vaccine supply for every adult in America by the end of May. That moved up the timeline from the end of July, which is what the president was saying just a few weeks ago. Biden is invoking the Defense Production Act to boost production of the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Also, in case you didn't hear this, the drug maker Merck is going to help Johnson & Johnson produce the Johnson & Johnson vaccine. Biden also called on states to prioritize teachers and school staff as essential workers, calling for every grade school employee and child care provider to receive at least one dose of vaccine by the end of this month. Is this going to happen? I don't know. That would include teachers. Biden said he was using the full authority of the federal government to direct all states and the D.C. to do the same, to classify them as essential workers, I guess. Biden said the change will go into effect next week to move pre-K through 12th grade school staff ahead in line. I want to get a little more about that information there. Let me see. Let me find a different article about that explaining that. I'd like to get a little more detail on what action he took involving like teachers and people who work at schools. Let's see if we can find more detail on the teacher thing. I mean, he said he wanted all teachers to be vaccinated, but it looks like he took some action. Let's see here. Where is this? Doesn't even really get into it there. Okay, let's try this article. Biden moves to get all teachers a vaccine shot by the end of March. Washington Post. He said he would use federal authority to offer vaccinations to K-12 teachers and child care workers with the aim of getting at least the first shot administered to all educators by the end of March. He said starting next week, the federal government will use its pharmacy program to prioritize educators for vaccination and allow them to sign up for appointments. I want to be very clear, he said. Not every educator will be able to get their appointment in the first week, but our goal is to do everything we can to help every educator receive a shot this month. Okay, that doesn't really explain things in detail. Okay, here it is. Here's some more detail here from this Washington Post article. The CDC has recommended that teachers be prioritized, suggesting they be part of the second group eligible for vaccination, behind only healthcare workers and those in nursing homes and other senior settings. But the CDC did not mandate this. And, now the White House is bypassing the state decision-making about who to prioritize for the vaccine, and the White House is giving teachers direct access to vaccine supply under its control through its pharmacy program. The Biden administration began deploying vaccine doses directly to retail pharmacies on February 11th, starting with 1 million. That sum quickly doubled and has grown steadily since. So basically what's happening is what usually happens with the vaccine so far, they've been largely controlled by the states. And each state sets up the rules for who can get the vaccine when. It's different in different states. And the federal government now, the Biden administration, is saying, well, we're going to allow teachers to get it at these pharmacies that are supplied. That the Biden administration sends certain amount of vaccine directly to pharmacies, and they can set the rules for that, I guess is what the deal is. And they're going to say for those pharmacies, we're going to allow teachers to make appointments, and we want to have every teacher and school staff be able to get at least one dose by the end of the month. But it sounds like you'll have to go to it sounds like you might be if you're a teacher, that doesn't mean you can just go on the state portal. It sounds like you'll have to set it up a certain way. I don't know the mechanics of how all this works. If you're a teacher, will you in a state where they don't prioritize teachers for vaccines, will you have to go to a federal website to sign up for your appointment? I don't know. I don't know the nuts and bolts of how that's going to work. Let me know your thoughts at Lookner on Twitter. Doug Rabbit, that's just false. Doug Rabbit says, why do teachers need vaccines when young people don't spread the virus? That's not true that young people don't spread the virus. It's just not true. Just false. Maybe there's different levels of spread from young people or other people, but it's just not true. ACL says California already prioritizes teachers and they have a special website. I know somebody who's a teacher in New York State, and the person I know in New York State has not been able to get a vaccine and cannot get one so far, even though they're a teacher. So that would make a difference for that person. Okay, here's a post from Education Week. This is an article from Education Week. Now, this was updated on March 2nd, where teachers are eligible for the vaccine. Teachers and other school staff members are on many priority lists in the U.S., but not everywhere. Exactly where educators as a group fall within phased vaccination plans and the speed with which those phases are happening varies greatly from state to state. So this is an article from Education Week. So teacher eligibility for vaccines by state. What is this? Dark blue is teachers are... Okay, there's no black. Black is just teachers are eligible. Dark blue is teachers over 50 are eligible. Tan is teachers are not yet eligible. Light blue is teachers are eligible in some places. But if I'm reading this right, there's no state where just teachers are blanket eligible, because dark blue is teachers over 50 are eligible. Actually, no, maybe that's wrong. Maybe this is teachers are eligible. It's a little confusing with the colors. All right, let's just do it this way. Idaho, teachers are eligible. Okay, so teachers are eligible in Idaho, Oregon. Okay, it's actually a bunch of states. Teachers are eligible in California. Now, that doesn't just because you're eligible doesn't mean you can get an appointment. There might be a shortage of vaccine. Okay, so it looks like this blue is actually teachers are eligible because I'm going over and it says teachers are eligible. What does it say about New York? See, this says teachers are eligible, but I know someone who's a teacher who hasn't been able to get it yet. Interesting. Maybe the person just hasn't been able to make an appointment yet. Maybe there isn't enough supply. Anyways, you can go here, but this makes it look like in a bunch of states they are eligible. Although, there's also a supply shortage in a lot of places. So maybe it'll help teachers get vaccinated faster if you have the federal government specifically allotting supply for teachers. Thank you, Aravik Sonder. Aravik says, this is good news. I teach in Texas and we are back to in-person and not eligible. That's what Aravik says. Texas, teachers are not yet eligible. Florida, teachers are not yet eligible. It's based on age, I think, in Florida. On March 1st, Governor DeSantis said K through 12 employees 50 years of age and older are eligible. Georgia, teachers are not yet eligible. So there's a bunch of states where they're not yet eligible. Anyways, you can go to Education Week and see that. Thank you, Aravik Sonder. I appreciate that. Thank you also. So I hope you get a vaccine soon, Aravik Sonder. Thank you also, Natasha Zdanov, for your support. I really appreciate that, Natasha Zdanov. Thank you also, Darth Tater. Appreciate that, Darth Tater. And thanks, Darth Tater, for thanking the moderators. Game Granny says the union reps in NYC are getting appointments for all teachers who want it. Game Granny says they need to contact the union rep in NY if they can't get it. Kathy Calm said that Inslee announces that Washington teachers were eligible for the vaccine. Linda Birdbike says they definitely need to vaccinate teachers if they're going to force face-to-face schooling. Yeah, I think the graph was a little confusing. As Nate Skates said, this is more of a dark blue. It's a little confusing. But I think the dark blue is all eligible here. Now, look, it's a hard situation because, it would be great if everybody could get it. So you have to you have to draw the line somewhere. If you're going to if you're going to have, say, all teachers can get it, well, then fewer, say, older people are going to be able to get it. It's like you have all these, you have older people, you have people with serious diseases, comorbidities, you have teachers. There's all kinds of groups of people you would want to be prioritized. Essential workers. So you have, it's, just because if a state doesn't have teachers eligible, if the states without teachers eligible, it's not because they hate teachers and want them to get the virus. It's just because they're prioritizing a different group. There's just not enough supply right now. So you have to draw these lines. Hopefully by, maybe April, May, sounds like definitely May, maybe even April, you'll get to a situation where anyone can get one who wants one, no matter who you are, if you're an adult. See, that's where it gets really important about the whole. Remember, Biden says they're trying to get all teachers and school employees to get a vaccine shot by the end of March. But the other thing that was announced today was that Biden said that he anticipated that you would have enough vaccine available for every U.S. adult by May 31st. Montpelier says Vermont estimates May 8th for teachers. ACL says teachers have not worked in person at all while food workers have. Well, some teachers have worked in person. But yeah, there's all kinds of people who you would like to prioritize. There's just not enough vaccine right now. ACL says teachers have a special site in California called Viva Vaccinates. Is that true? Is that a California thing? This is Viva Vaccinates, California Schools Resource Center. I don't know anything about this. Gone with the Gale says, why can't people with underlying conditions get it before healthy people? In some states are opening up to anybody even like I think 18 or above or 16 and above with underlying conditions. Some states aren't. Again, it's just you have to draw the line somewhere. There's so many people you'd like to get vaccinated as a priority, and there's just not enough vaccine for them. So you just have to make a choice. Each state has to make choices. Me, Betty Boop says, I wonder how long is the immunity from the vaccine supposed to stay in your body? Well, we will have to see what happens with people and how long it ends up protecting people for. It's not clear yet. Sama says, kids getting back in the classroom needs to be priority number one. Do whatever it takes, in my opinion. Was this ever thought of? Maybe not. Because of all, I don't know, because it would like violate contracts. But was it ever thought of that like, so look, again, according to the federal government, according to the Biden administration, there's going to be enough vaccine for every adult by the end of May, right? The supply is going to go way up. Is there a thought, what about the idea of like this will never happen. But did anyone bring up the idea of like, well, now that you still have most of the countries not vaccinated, how about having like the kids go to school, instead of going now, have them just go over the summer? You see, I'm just throwing this out there because it sounds like in this, you have so many kids who've been out of school for so long, and then you have like, so it sounds like the vaccines, it sounds like most of the country's going to get vaccinated right at the end of the school year. And then you're going to have this 3-month summer break. I just wonder, was there ever any thought anywhere in different places of like moving summer break to like the spring when everybody, so everybody's getting vaccinated over summer break and then actually having the school year start over the summer? There's probably reasons you can't do this. I'm just saying, it's kind of a weird situation where like the 2-month period where most of the country is going to get vaccinated is going to be the end of the school year, and then you're going to have and so you're trying to get kids back to school, and it's going to be like, hey, okay, finally everybody's vaccinated now. Okay, now it's time for the 3-month summer break. I don't know if this has been discussed anywhere. I just thought of it. It's kind of odd. Gigi says they should start school this summer instead of fall. Kenny says the summer it costs more money to cool down the buildings. Ricky Field says, I think that might happen here in the UK. I'm sure there's like things like in the contracts where the contracts are written so the people get the summer off. So there's that whole, the workers get the summer off. So I'm just, again, given how much time kids have missed, it's a bit of an odd situation to have everybody get vaccinated in April and May, and then in June everybody goes on break for 3 months. Maybe it'll get discussed. Or I mean, look, because the thing is, this story just came out today. It's Biden said today enough vaccine will be available for every U.S. adult by May 31st. Previously, his estimate was by, I think, end of July. So it's kind of a new, recent. This timeline is pretty new. This whole, like end of May thing. So maybe it will be discussed. I don't know. Oric says, don't steal their summer. Mira RV says, schools in my school district do not have air conditioning. Now, Julie points out, she says, teachers are working more than full-time whether their school is in session or not. Some are too. Yeah, so look, yes, teachers, certainly that's a consideration. Teachers are working. Sure, yes. So, as I said, I just didn't know if this kind of thing had been discussed. And again, the idea would be, and again, there's probably no way to do this, but the idea would be if you could, like in the abstract, all specifics aside, if you knew in advance that the big months of everybody getting vaccinated was going to be like April and May, then, wouldn't it be better to just have that be the summer vacation in April and May, and then take the July and August and have people in school if the goal is to get people in the classroom? Again, there's probably all kinds of reasons, I'm sure, why this would be impractical. I just didn't know if it had been discussed. Maybe it'll happen somewhere in the world. Hey, I want to say a quick thank you to Kevin Wheeler. Thanks so much for your support, Kevin Wheeler. That's really kind of you. And also, Natasha Zdanov. Thank you again, Natasha, for your support. Kevin Wheeler and Natasha Zdanov, thank you. SC Lady says, good idea, Steve. In a strange year, nothing surprises me, or what used to be the normal. Hopefully in a year or two, if not sooner, so frustrating for all. Oh, thank you so much, by the way, Geraldine Karstensen, too. Thank you, Geraldine. Geraldine says, love the AFTV2 format. Mods are entertaining and on it. Thank you, Geraldine. That's very kind of you. And thank you to our moderators, too. The thing is, you couldn't, it's not like it's, the calendar for when most people are going to get vaccinated is really just coming into focus. I mean, this is a headline from today. So we're really starting to narrow down. Assuming everything's on schedule, it really seems like most of the country will get vaccinated in April and May. But it's not like that's been known, way in advance. Maria B. says, I am a teacher and a negotiator for our union. Changing the school year would be a contractual and logistical mess. Yeah, I understand that. I totally understand that. And it's so close to it, but anyways, it was just a thought I had. But yeah, you're watching our live news roundup. We do this sometimes where we just talk about a bunch of different stories and we read a bunch of your comments. If you're watching on YouTube, well, obviously on YouTube, you know that this is on Agenda Free TV too. I have 2 news channels on YouTube. On the other platforms, I have 1 news channel. But there's 2 on YouTube. There's Agenda Free TV 2 and Agenda Free TV. So make sure you're subscribed to both. Make sure you subscribe to both and make sure you click the bell on both and you choose all. The notifications bell, choose all notifications. Starfire says people in my city are wondering if they should have open houses. Yeah, we're going to talk about Texas in a second. Now, hopefully there's no crazy variant that comes out that makes the vaccines a lot less effective. That would certainly not be good. Lou Sasshole thinks internet school is the wave of the future. I don't know, Lou. I mean, there's strong arguments for people being around other people. But maybe there'll be more of it in certain situations after this. I don't know. Hey, thanks, by the way, Krista Barker, for watching. Sama says, my kids are dying to get back to school. They'd even go in the summer. Underdog Rising says, our special ed teachers in California have had their vaccines. Cool Cookie says, I went to summer high school classes 3 years besides regular year, kept me from running amok. All right, let's talk about Texas. Let's do that. Ann M. says, if teachers can't work remotely, they should be vaccinated. Okay. Sorry, I need a little lip balm. All right, in case you didn't hear, Texas removed its statewide mask mandate, and also, I don't know, so the governor said that they removed all of their statewide restrictions. Now, localities can still have, on businesses, localities, I believe, can still restrict capacity of places to up to 50%. So there are measures localities can take, but I think maybe localities in Texas can't have a mask mandate. See, the way they do it in some states, like they'll have a rule for the state and they'll say, but hey, if you're a city and you want to do something different, that's fine. I know in Texas, it's more like we have this rule for the state and the cities, you can't break the rule. But they'll give them a few exceptions, you know. So this doesn't mean that all of Texas is literally open 100% because states, some localities still have a bit of leeway, but not that much. And by the way, this is so the Governor Abbott said it's time to open Texas 100% and statewide mask mandate. Look, just the widespread expert opinion is that this is not a good idea and should be waited for longer while people are getting vaccinated. The situation will be very different in a couple of months. I mean, every day it becomes different because every day more and more people are getting vaccinated in the U.S. But I mean, it's not hard to find. The CDC recommended against doing it. The CDC recommended against it yesterday. For example, here's Meg Terrell, reporter, posted this. CDC director yesterday, at this level of cases with variants spreading, we stand to completely lose the hard-earned ground we have gained. Now is not the time to relax the critical safeguards that we know can stop the spread of COVID-19 in our communities. Because you have these, especially the variants are variants like the UK variant and the Brazil variant that are spreading in the US and that spread faster than previous variants. So I've heard many experts say, like, we need to be really careful because, the case numbers might be down, but they can really rocket up like happened in the UK with these new variants. And you won't know it until, it can happen very fast and you need to prepare, you need to make sure it happens before it actually happens. Because if you wait until the cases start going up, it'll be too late to do anything about it. And then also Ashish Jha, who is the head of, I believe, the Brown School of Public Health. Dean of Brown School of Public Health said, not what I'd recommend about Governor Abbott, who said issuing an executive order to lift the mask mandate and open Texas to 100%. He said, not what I'd recommend. Infections are still high. Variants of concern are spreading, and Texas is the 48th among states in vaccinations. With more vaccines on the way, doing this in a couple of months would be far more reasonable. Doing it now, big risk with people's lives. Yeah, so I don't really get what the big rush is. I mean, because people are getting vaccinated. They're getting vaccinated. I mean, ultimately, it's a cost-benefit thing. But is the benefit of opening things up a month before going to be worth the cost of the extra people who will get the virus and get sick, and die eventually? There'll be some extra people who do. I don't know. I mean, I haven't run all the numbers, but all I can tell you is the people who do this for a living seem pretty unanimous to me in saying, let's just wait a little bit. So I deferred to them because they're the ones who do this for a living and have studied this stuff. And that includes the CDC as well. But anyways, here's a story from Dallas Morning News. Governor Abbott says it's time to open Texas 100% end statewide mask mandate. Public health experts say the move, which takes effect next week, is risky and comes much too soon. Texans will no longer be required to wear a face mask in public. Yeah, I mean, I'm just thinking that the mask thing, I mean, I'm just thinking about like the opening up thing, but I mean, what's the big deal about having people wear masks until people get vaccinated? I don't know. I don't see why it's such a big pain to wait until some more people get vaccinated, which is happening right now. All businesses will be able to open at full capacity starting next week, said Greg Abbott, and Texans will no longer be required to wear a face mask in public. Although I think localities can still restrict business capacity some. The Republican made the sweeping move even though public health officials say restrictions are still critical to control the pandemic. Again, look, so I haven't done, when things like this come up, I haven't done all. You have to do so much research to figure out the costs and the benefits, and I'm not going to sit here and act like an economist, and I'm not going to sit here and act like a professional. What is the word I'm looking for? Is immunologist? Not immunologist. Somebody who studies diseases, infectious diseases. An expert in infectious diseases. Ultimately, I'm just going to look to the people who do this for a living, who study it, who are experts in it. And from what I can tell, it seems like a pretty good consensus from the public health experts saying over and over again, just hold off a little bit until more people get vaccinated. Abbott cited growing vaccination rates for his decision, though fewer than 2 million Texans are fully inoculated against COVID in a state of 29 million people. The announcement puts Texas at odds with federal experts who have said that even as vaccinations rise, people still need to wear masks, avoid crowds, and socially distance. Abbott also pointed to declines in hospitalizations, but experts warn that those are slowing and could reverse. The mask mandate will be lifted next Wednesday, and all businesses will be allowed to open to 100%. Does it say anything about? Is it really all? Is there? I thought localities could still restrict some businesses, but maybe I'm wrong about that. While Abbott noticed, here it is. Abbott noted that businesses can still choose to limit occupancy or require masks. So I guess maybe what it is individual businesses can decide to limit capacity or require masks. Maybe it's not the locality. Maybe it's the individual businesses that can decide that. The move faced pushback from public health experts. While new cases and hospitalizations have fallen from a peak in January, levels of disease are still high. As of this week, about 5,600 people across Texas are hospitalized with the disease. The state has been averaging about 5,000 new cases per day over the past week. Epidemiologist is the word I was looking for. Rolling back the restrictions is risky, especially before spring break, because that's a time when people typically travel, gather in groups, and go out to bars, said Diana Cervantes, an epidemiologist at the University of North Texas Health Science Center in Fort Worth. Right now, we're at a critical cusp point, she said, where things could definitely turn around. It could go either way, up or down. Also, letting up on social distancing and masking increases the likelihood that new, more dangerous variants of the virus will emerge, experts cautioned. Two of Abbott's 4 medical advisors, whom he named at the beginning of the pandemic, said they were not part of the decision to eliminate the mask mandate and let businesses be open completely. Mark McClellan, a former commissioner of the FDA, said in an email he was not consulted on this decision. Dr. Parker Hudson, an assistant professor of internal medicine in Austin, said he was not involved. Another of the advisors, John Zerwas, Dr. John Zerwas, a vice chancellor for health affairs at the University of Texas System and a former Republican state representative, said Abbott had consulted him and he agreed on the changes, in part because Texas is currently on a good trajectory. The fourth advisor did not immediately respond to a request for comment. Neither did Abbott's office. Oh, look, county judges will be able to impose their own restrictions if COVID hospitalizations rise above 15% in their region for 7 straight days. So that's another possible way localities could restrict things. Clay Jenkins, who is the he is the highest ranking executive. He is the highest ranking elected official in Dallas County, Clay Jenkins. He said moments ago, on the day 25 new deaths raised Dallas County's death toll above 3,000, Governor Abbott lifted all his state orders designed to protect you and those you care about from COVID. You should focus on what doctors, facts, and science say is safe, not on what governor says is legal. I also think there's a risk from people who don't follow this closely that they might hear the governor say, okay, everything's open again and no masks are needed. And they might say, oh, I guess that's it. I guess there's no risk. I guess if the governor is saying everything can be open, then I'm perfectly safe. So the pandemic's over. There very well might be people who hear the announcement and just think that, which would be incorrect to think. Last week, the CDC director, Dr. Rochelle Walensky, warned that the decline in U.S. cases from record highs in January had slowed and possibly even flattened out. Variants of the virus that are more transmissible are also spreading. Walensky, the CDC director, said last week that the so-called UK variant was accounting for up to 10% of new cases in the US, up from 1 to 4% a few weeks earlier. We may be done with the virus, but clearly the virus is not done with us, Walensky said. I know people are tired and they want to get back to life, to normal, but we're not there yet. That's from the head of the CDC. All right, I'll take some comments from you guys, at Lookner on Twitter. And by the way, Mississippi did something similar today. Mississippi, let's see if I can get the headline here. I had a tweet about it before. Yeah, CNBC, Texas, Mississippi lift COVID restrictions and mask mandates despite CDC warnings. Mississippi Governor Tate Reeves announced the end of county mask mandates in his state and the full reopening of nearly all businesses. Both announcements came shortly after the CDC director warned state officials against lifting restrictions too quickly. Give me a shout, let me know your thoughts. Underdog Rising said, Biden even said we could vaccinate by May. Why not wait just a few more months? Baby Shark says, I'm in New York, New Jersey area, so probably will be the last to have restrictions lifted. There's a lot of controversy in Massachusetts. Massachusetts recently said that restaurants could open at full capacity, indoors. Christopher Lund said, I read that in Dallas, hospitals were reducing the number of hospital beds in a hospital so that they can meet the threshold and override the governor. I have not heard that. If you have a link, Christopher, please send it along. Thank you, Christopher, for writing it. McMomface+2 says, our sheriffs have refused to enforce this whole time anyways. Diana L. says, being an ICU nurse, it makes me sick to my stomach. Clint Templeton says, Houston, Dallas, and San Antonio mayors say this was a bad call. Kay Gebhardt says, variants are being seeded in our communities right now. Question is, how bad will it get? Believe me, I've been saying the whole time during this pandemic that the best thing would be for things to be open, and in the abstract, the best thing is for people to get back to work. Public health experts don't want to, they want people to go back to work. I mean, look, so as I've been saying for like a year now, public health experts did not want people to be locked down. Public health experts did not want things to be closed. From the beginning of the pandemic, public health experts were saying, we don't think that you can have a long-term shutting. We don't think it's doable and practical and desirable to have long-term closures and lockdowns or whatever. They weren't the ones advocating for that. What they were saying, and this is from the beginning, it's very simple advice from the public health experts, and I've been saying this and repeating it from them since like last March, which was do what you need to do to get the cases down to a low level. And once they are at that low level, then you do testing, tracing, and isolation. Widespread testing and contact tracing. So if somebody gets a case, you find out, you have procedures in institutions and people in place to find out who they've been in contact with, and you contact those people and they isolate. Those people isolate, and you, as a state, you do what you need to do to make it easier for them to do so. This is what they do in places like Australia and New Zealand and South Korea and Taiwan. And the point is once you get the cases down to a low level, you prevent big outbreaks. How? You widely test, and then if somebody gets it, you contact trace and you figure out who they've been in contact with, and then you make those people isolate so they can't spread it to anyone else. That's been the prescription since last year. And in the US, it just never was followed. It was just never followed. And the public health experts themselves were saying, we don't think we should do these long lockdowns. So this idea that the experts want to close things down, no, they've been saying from the beginning, no, we don't think this is doable. And they had a plan, and it's the plan that the countries that have dealt best with this have followed. Test, trace, and isolate. We didn't do it in this country. So this is what we're faced with. But just to be clear, when you see like the CDC saying and a public health expert saying, well, we think it's too soon, they're not sitting there saying like, yeah, we wanted to have these lockdowns. They're just saying, given the facts in the country right now, this is where we're at. But if you listen to the experts, they didn't want the lockdowns. They didn't want the long lockdowns. It's just this country didn't take the basic advice that was just the consensus advice for experts on how to avoid having to keep things shut down, and more importantly, how to avoid lots of people dying and getting sick from the virus. But this is where we're at. Thank you, Julie Huft. for your support. Julie says, I feel trapped between the insanity here in Louisiana. Thank you, Julie, for your support. Name is Nick says, we have overdoses, suicides, domestic violence issues leading to death because of lockdowns. Okay, well, Name is Nick, rather than make a general statement with no evidence supporting it, perhaps you'd like to show me some kind of detailed analysis which with good research that somehow that shows, that provides good evidence that the costs of the lockdowns outweigh the benefits from keeping hospitals from getting overwhelmed. I mean, it's very easy to say there in your armchair, yeah, we got, the closures are causing so much pain. But it's a lot harder to actually provide evidence of what the consequences are of various policies. So, I mean, I don't really find it convincing when someone makes a general statement like that, which in no way is backed up with any research. But I'll say it again. The public health experts were the people who didn't want lockdowns. And they had a plan, and we just didn't listen. The plan was obvious. Go back and watch our streams from last March. Said it again and again and again. Test, trace, isolate. Test, trace, isolate. Test, trace, isolate. Well, we didn't develop widespread testing in this country. The testing system was awful. It was hard to get tests. You couldn't get the results back rapidly. We still don't have like cheap, widely available testing and easy testing in a lot of places. So the testing we didn't do. Contact tracing, oh my gosh. We did not at all develop in this country the kind of robust contact tracing you would need. And isolating, oh my gosh, that was just like, can't do that in this country. Can't make people isolate, sorry. Well, you don't do the basic things, then you get stuck with how many people, 500,000 people dying or whatever it is, around that. And having the economy stink, because the economy won't get better until the virus gets better, and even if things are open, whether they're open or not. So don't do the basic things the experts who know what they're talking about say to do, then you get bad results. That's what's happened to us. U.S. has 529,000 deaths. 529,000 deaths. And think of all the people who got sick. Remember when the big estimate of deaths was like 120,000 to 200,000? Remember when that was like, oh my gosh, that was like the crazy estimate. There was a really good tweet today I saw about this. This one. When Governor Abbott announced a statewide mask mandate, says David Gura says, when Governor Abbott announced a statewide mask mandate, I was on a reporting trip to Houston. On that Thursday, July 2nd, there were 700,434 new cases in Texas and 44 deaths. Yesterday, there were 8,140 cases and 129 deaths. So there were actually more cases and deaths in Texas yesterday than there were on the day that Governor Abbott announced the statewide mask mandate last year. Nope, Toy Biederman, that's wrong. Toy Biederman says the estimates in March, April for the U.S. were for 1 or 2 million deaths. No, that's just wrong. Your facts are totally wrong. The 1 to 2 million deaths, I believe, was like an estimate is if no one changed their behavior at all, and life didn't change at all. I believe that was the estimate. There was no estimate for 1 to 2 million deaths if any kind of like reasonable measures were followed. Linda Belk says it's a very low death rate. So Linda is saying it's a very low death rate that 500,000, 29,000 people died. I mean, low compared to what? Low compared to what? That's what I'd say. I mean, all I know is that last year, if the idea that 200,000 people might die of this was seen as like, by a lot of people in the country was seen as like, oh my gosh, well that's a crazy high estimate. Now we have 529,000. I mean, you can say anything's low or high. You can say anything's low or high. It just depends on what you think is low and what you think is high. All I'm saying is it's a lot worse than a lot of other countries. There's a lot of countries that did a lot better. And there's a lot of countries that did a lot better statistically, and there's a lot of countries that did a lot better in what they do. And it is just obvious. It's just the most obvious thing in the world that we didn't test, trace, and isolate. That people didn't take it seriously. People refused to wear masks, a lot of them. We didn't have good mask wearing in this country. The whole thing became politicized. We had crap contact tracing. The testing was awful. Isolation can't do it. So I mean, if you think this is low, I guess that's your standard for the word low. Personally, I think if hundreds of thousands of people more died than needed to die with reasonable measures, I think that's pretty bad. But maybe you don't think so. Maybe you think that's fine. So that's just your choice. I mean, I don't think we should be happy with hundreds of thousands of people dying in a way which was in an entirely preventable way, which really wouldn't have inconvenienced people, and actually probably would have been convenienced them a lot more because things could have gotten like back to normal a lot easier. But if you're not upset about that, fine. Then that's your choice. Read Israel says, what if we all as a country had rallied together for the sake of Americans and really took Pence's 15 days to stop the spread seriously? Thank you, Read Israel. I appreciate that. Well, that whole thing was misconceived anyway, because you weren't going to stop the spread in 15 days. So what you needed is a long-term plan. And in this country, again, and some other countries have been like this too, but in this country, again and again, there's never been a long-term plan. We talked about this last year. You had to have a long-term plan. Everything in this country has been like, let's have a lockdown and get the numbers down, and then let's open up. Well, that doesn't solve anything because the numbers will just go back up. So it's not very. You're not stopping anything in any kind of significant way if you're just going to like lift the restrictions. So that's what's happened in this country, and this is what we've been talking about for a year. Cases and hospitalizations, deaths go up, and everybody freaks out. And then we have like restrictions, and then people are like, oh, okay, we don't need the restrictions anymore. And then the cases go up again, and the deaths go up again, and then eventually they got even higher and higher and higher, and reached new highs like a month or two ago. But there was never any plan. There was never any long-term plan. Like the whole 15 days to stop the spread is just like, no. What you need is like X days, 15 days to it should have been 15 days to get, or whatever days, 3 weeks to get the cases down to a low level, and then we get together and we keep it low. Then we go with plan keep it low, so we can get on with our lives and make this manageable. But the whole idea of just 2 weeks doing anything is just like, what are you going to do in 2 weeks? The virus doesn't go anywhere in 2 weeks. But that wasn't just the federal government, the state governments too. I said it last year. Cuomo was talking about reopening, New York in like May or whatever it was. It's like, that's not going to happen. But everybody acted like it was a 2-month thing. Remember everybody yelling at me last year, at the beginning of last year when we were covering this? Probably a lot of you people right now, a lot of you people were like, yay, they opened up. A lot of you are probably the same people who told me that this was just the flu. That this was just the flu. Well, now it's a year later. And over 500,000 people died in this country. Anyway, so that's happening. I mean, I hope we don't see a big spike because of the variants. And look, more and more people are getting vaccinated. That's good. I don't see what the big deal is. And actually listening to the experts, what they suggest, and waiting a month or two for many. Again, it looks like by the end of May, you might have pretty much all the adults vaccinated, or the people who want to get vaccinated. Rita says, by the way, thank you, Rita, for your support. Rita says the elected officials in Texas have been taking heat for what happened with the utility companies with the snowstorm for the last 2 weeks. They are trying to change the topic and make the people of Texas happy. It's all a distraction in my personal opinion. That's what Rita thinks. Thank you, Rita, for writing it. Thank you, Indy, for your support, too. I appreciate it. Indy, thank you. You can give me a shout at Lookner on Twitter. It's where you can reach me. Jeff Haas says, I agree with Rita. That's what came to mind when I heard this news. Thank you, Rita, by the way. Rita says, I meant 15 days more seriously to buy each state, federal government time to get testing and tracing down. They never really did. Plus, death is not only negative side effect of COVID. Many have lingering problems. That is true. Yeah, I know what you're saying, Rita. Rita's commenting how this happened. This just happened all across the country. It wasn't just at the federal level. The point of lockdowns, of having these closures, in theory should have been as part of a larger plan to get things opened back up. So again, the idea is you get cases down to a low level, and then you use the lockdown time to get measures in place which will help you keep things manageable at a low level. But in this country that generally didn't happen. It was just like, lockdown, okay, wait till the cases go back down, okay, now open everything up. And that's basically what it was. It wasn't like lockdown and get all of this stuff done during lockdown to help you better manage it after you lift the lockdown. But we talked about that all last year. It's also funny, there's this thread going around on Twitter where some reporter posted like, where were you, what were you doing and where were you when you realized like that life was really going to change in the US? And so many of the answers are people saying about it, saying it was March 2nd or March 5th or March this or late February. And it's like, if you were really paying attention to this story, you knew so far before that things were going to change. It was just blatantly obvious. Didn't take a genius. A lot of you were watching and knew that, and you'd figured it out. So it's just funny that to see people saying March or late February, it was just utterly obvious that it was going to make its way here. All right, so again, I certainly hope we don't have, big rise in cases and hospitalizations from the variants. I mean, more people are getting vaccinated, which is good, but I hope people can just, keep staying away from other people and keep the thing from spreading more while people are getting vaccinated. All right, hang on 1 second here. Here's what I want to do. I want to take some more comments from you guys. I want to do that and talk about a couple more things. But guys, I need to take a 1 minute break. Give me 1 minute. 1 minute. I will be right back in 1 minute and we will continue our live coverage. All right, we're back. Diana L. says, I'm afraid Texas and any other state that just opens everything up is going to cause a major rise in spread. Well, we just don't know. It's not clear. There's even among experts, it's not clear. Some experts have different opinions about with the new variants. You have new variants that are here, like the UK variant, which are spreading faster than the old variants. But on the other hand, you have more people getting vaccinated every day. You have people who have some immunity from already having had the virus. So I see different opinions. Michael Osterholm, who's an expert, has been saying for weeks he's been saying he thinks that the UK variant is going to make it worse in the US than it's ever been before. But other experts are saying that they think because of the vaccines and also people having the immunity from already having had the disease, they think it's not going to be so bad. So we'll just have to see. And also, I mean, even in a state like Texas, the governor can say, "Oh, everything's open." But a lot of people are not going to go out and socialize. Look, I'm in Orlando, Florida. The bars here are open. They're open. You can go, you can mingle, you can go in a big crowd of people. The bars are not crowded here. Sometimes they are. Certain days you see big crowds, but I've walked around here. I've walked around on weekends. Most of the bars are not crowded. So there are lots of people who, even when things are open, will not go out. So it's not like just because restrictions are lifted doesn't mean that everybody immediately starts going and acting as they do before, and a lot of people won't. So that's gonna lessen the effect of opening up orders as well. But I don't know what will happen. So. Mark Warling says, I believe Michael Osterholm. Well, we'll have to see. Matt, I don't think Michael. How credible is Osterholm? Oh, I think he's credible in the sense of he's a well-respected expert. He was on Biden's. I know he was an advisor on Biden's team. And the stuff he said, I listened to him a bunch when this whole thing started. And the stuff he said was right. His predictions, his general predictions about the trajectory of this last year when this thing started, he was talking about it having a long-term. It's going to get worse, and then there's going to be a lockdown, and then the lockdown will be lifted, and then it'll get worse again. And he said it's going to this cycle of lockdowns and opening up. He predicted that was going to happen in this country, and he was right. But there's just different opinions. No one knows exactly what's going to happen, and there's different opinions right now out there among the public health experts about what's going to happen over the next couple of months in the U.S. But certainly, if most adults can get vaccinated by the end of May, that's going to be a huge deal. Chris Lund said, I had a cruise scheduled last March, still waiting on that. Michelle Ryan says almost everyone in my area of Florida doesn't wear masks. It depends on where you are in the country. Where I am in Orlando, most people wear them, but I know it's different in different parts of the country. I was also Oh, here, I just want to show you this. Bill Malugan posted this. ICE confirms to Fox LA that agents from Homeland Security Investigations in San Diego have initiated a human smuggling investigation in connection with the fatal crash near El Centro that killed 13 people after 25 had been crammed into a Ford Expedition that seats 7 to 8. Yeah, I mean, that's from Bill Malugan. This is not surprising. I mean, that would be one of the things you would think might have been the case. We talked, if you missed it, we spent a bunch of time, the whole start of this stream was talking about this accident. So if you missed that, go back to like the first half hour of the stream. Is it ICE or ICE? I've never known how people pronounce it. I say ICE and then people have said to me ICE. But yeah, this was terrible. But yeah, we spent about a half an hour covering this earlier in the stream. ICE, ICE. Doesn't say how it's pronounced in Wikipedia. Linda Belk says that doesn't surprise me about that report. Yeah. Cats Go Nuts says one word, ICE. This is interesting. Linda Fuller sent this to me. She said, found the screenshots I grabbed on March 22, 2020. This is a year ago with some of the case numbers. So this is Worldometer from a year ago. You can see USA a year ago had 21 total cases. Spain had 36 cases. Japan had 18 cases. Oh, sorry. U.S. had 96 cases. Japan had 274. France had 1. These are total cases a year ago. Thank you, Linda. Madsen sent me this and said, would love to hear your views. Madsen sent me this article from last October. Madsen, thanks for your kind words about the channel, by the way. So Madsen sent me this article from last October, headline, WHO backflips on virus stance by condemning lockdowns. We talked about this again and again and again. You need to read past the headline. It's kind of a misleading headline, and you need to read past the headline. What they said was, we in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of control of the virus. The only time we believe a lockdown is justified is to buy you time to reorganize, regroup, and rebalance your resources, protect your health workers who are exhausted, and by and large, but we'd rather not do it. That's what the public health experts' view is that it's not something you want to do, and it shouldn't be the primary thing you do. But you can see there's plenty of articles. When this article came out, there was a lot of people who looked at the headline and mistook what they were saying and said, oh, they're saying lockdowns are blanket bad. But you can find lots of articles. This was last October. You can find lots of articles out there explaining the misunderstanding of this story. So, for example, I just did a Google search. Took 5 seconds. This is from Kaiser Health Network. No, the WHO didn't change its lockdown stance or admit Trump was right. Let's see here. Did the WHO change its stance on lockdowns or concede anything to Trump as he said it did briefly? No. Let's see. We in a video clip in October of last year, Dr. David Nabarro, a special envoy with the WHO, said, "We in the World Health Organization do not advocate lockdowns as the primary means of control of this virus." We checked with Dr. Nabarro to find out if the clip reflected the points he raised during a nearly 20-minute interview. He responded by email, "My comments were taken totally out of context. The WHO position is consistent." What he said he said, "We're saying we really do have to learn how to coexist with this virus in a way that doesn't require constant closing down of economies, but at the same time in a way that is not associated with high levels of suffering and death." So the basic idea here is that, look, a member of the WHO media office told us in a statement, "Our position on lockdowns and other severe movement restrictions has been consistent since the beginning. We recognize that they are costly to societies, economies, and individuals, but they may need to be used if COVID transmission is out of control." The WHO has never advocated as national lockdowns as primary means for controlling the virus. Dr. Nabarro is repeating our advice to governments to do it all. So again, now you might say, "Steve, why are you talking about this again? This is from October. This was a misleading headline from October." I'm just bringing it up because I think it's useful to remind people you need to read past the headlines. You need to do a little bit of research. To just read a headline and say, "Oh my gosh," and not actually read the story and not actually understand what's being said, that's really not productive, and it results in misinformation being spread. So, to repeat what I said repeatedly when that headline came out, the public health experts have been saying all along, we don't want lockdowns to be we don't want lockdowns. And what they've been saying is, do a lockdown if you have to get the cases down to a low level, but then get all the stuff in place you need to keep cases at a lower level so you can open stuff up. Testing, tracing, isolation. That's what they want. They don't want lockdowns. But in this country, we didn't do the stuff that the experts recommended we do to keep cases at a low level, so they kept going up again and again and again, and we kept having to add more lockdowns. What is this? Hang on. So basically, Lori sent me this. You can go actually watch the whole clip if you want. Lori sent me this. We were talking earlier about how Biden announced he was trying to get all teachers and school staff workers to be able to get vaccinated, get at least one vaccine shot by the end of March. And in this interview, this was posted tonight by Maddow blog. It's David Kessler is on there. He's an official in the Biden administration, chief science officer. What he basically says is, he says if you're a teacher or a school worker, you're going to be able to go on like the CDC website and find a pharmacy, and you can look up the pharmacies that are offering the vaccines to teachers. We covered this before. The federal government is sending vaccines to pharmacies and saying we want to prioritize teachers with these vaccines and school workers. So if you're a teacher and a school worker, you should be able to, he said, go on the CDC website and look up, where the pharmacies are. So if you're a teacher or a school worker, again, I'm not going to get all into this now, but into all the exact timing and everything, the details. But definitely, go on the CDC website, look it up, and know that the federal government is putting this into place at pharmacies, vaccines for teachers and school workers to get. So if you want to find out about that, do a little research and you should be able to find out where those are being offered. Hey, thank you, by the way, to Starfire3. I appreciate your support, Starfire3. Thank you. Hang on a second here. I didn't even know this happened today. Raymond Guibo sent me this. There was another stock that went crazy. Rocket shares soar more than 70% as analysts eye GameStop-esque short squeeze. I didn't even know this happened today. Heavily shorted, that means bet against. When a stock is shorted, that means people bet on it to go down. Heavily shorted mortgage provider Rocket Company saw its stock surge on Tuesday in an eye-popping move reminiscent of the rallies that powered GameStop and other so-called meme stocks earlier in the year, says Yahoo Finance. Shares of Rocket closed up 71% today after being halted several times. The outsized move puts Rocket among the stocks that have experienced wild gyrations after becoming a focus of investors on sites such as Wall Street Bets on Reddit. Shares of Rocket companies are also heavily shorted, bet against, leaving them vulnerable to a phenomenon known as a short squeeze, where investors betting against a company's shares are actually forced to buy this. They're forced to buy the shares. Yeah, basically what happens is if there's a company where people have bet against it, here's the very brief explanation. To bet against a stock, that's when you short a stock, is you're hoping it goes down in value. And to short a stock, you borrow somebody's shares of the stock, and then you sell those shares. And then you're hoping that when the value goes down, you can buy back the shares for less than you sold them for, and you give the shares back to the person who loaned them to you, and you keep the profit. But basically, to bet against a stock, to short a stock, you need to borrow shares of it. And eventually you got to give those shares back. And the way, without getting too complex, if you bet against a stock by borrowing shares of the stock, and then the value goes up, instead of you want it to go down, but if it goes up, you might have to buy back those shares. You might have to buy back those shares if you want to get out of your bet because you're losing more and more money, for example. So what happens is you have these people at this forum, Wall Street Bets. They did this with GameStop, where GameStop was very heavily bet against. So the strategy that the people at Wall Street Bets came up with, they said, well, if we start buying the stock, then the price will go up. And if the price goes up, then some of the people who bet against it are going to have to actually buy the stock. Because if you bet against the stock and the price goes up instead of down, you might actually have to buy it. And that's going to cause the stock to go up more. And when the price goes up more, then more people who bet against it are going to be forced to buy it. So this is called a short squeeze, is when the price keeps going up because people who bet against it are actually forced to buy it. And so according to this Reuters article, that may have happened with Rocket. There's no news that I'm aware of that the company itself had any big news. So it's the stock went up 71%, but it's not like the company itself is fundamentally any different. Barclays analyst said the Rocket going up 71% today. He said it feels very much like a retail-driven move and probably a short squeeze. Retail investors are like individual investors investing their own money, not like big institutional investors. So he thinks it's like kind of like the GameStop thing. I'm assuming the shares will eventually just go back down because nothing fundamentally has changed about the company. I didn't even know about this. Richie Cuna says it's a money game that gamers are becoming good at. April Coco says I'm holding strong to my Dogecoin. Underdog Rising says the meme lives on. I hadn't even heard about this today. Ellen BRN, we did a whole stream on Governor Cuomo last night on Agenda Free TV. Jeff Haas said the company had great earnings last week. That's why I bought into it. Here's a CNBC article. Shares of rocket companies, a large short target of hedge funds, jump more than 70%. The online mortgage provider currently has large short bets placed against it by hedge funds. A number of popular posts on the Wall Street Bets chat room today featured Rocket. One of them says, I like Rocket. 1.7 million all in. Let's go YOLO. Wells Fargo analyst said, we believe the trading in Rocket reflects retail Reddit activity like we've seen in other stocks recently. We noted that we have an incrementally more positive view of the company, but not good enough to support this price move, which is the third trading day after earnings. We expect the shares to normalize, i.e. go back down and trade again on fundamentals. However, the timing is uncertain. If we go to Wall Street Bets, is it just all about Rocket right now? Is it even working? Here's Wall Street Bets. Hold on. See, people are posting like they used to post about GameStop. Rocket YOLO update. Rocket you only live once update. They're posting like how much money they've made. $181,000 gain in 4 hours from Rocket. Time to give my wife that wedding she always wanted. April Coco says YOLO. Thanks for letting me know. I had no idea. Linda Belk says, what does Rocket do? Well, there's a it's a mortgage provider. They are a mortgage provider, Rocket companies. Okay. I think maybe, hold on one second here. Rita says, isn't Rocket owned by Quicken? No, well, it's a public company, so oh yeah, Rocket is the parent company of Quicken Loans. Rocket owns Quicken Loans, says Reuters. I think maybe what we should do is I think I've covered the stories I wanted to cover, but I'm thinking maybe we'll do like we did last night, like a post stream on the Lookner channel. We did that last night. We did a stream last night on Agenda Free TV, and then we did like a non-news stream on the Lookner channel. So I think we might do that. That might be the thing to do. And if you don't know what I'm talking about when I say Lookner channel, most of you do. But I have a non-news channel that's only on YouTube. Lookner. So maybe we'll go over there and we'll do a stream there. I think that's what we might do. Why don't we do that? We've had enough news for tonight. Enough news. Yeah, so head on over to subscribe to Lookner if you haven't. And we'll do a stream over there. All right, so I want to thank you for joining this news live stream. Thank you for joining our news roundup. And we will, whenever there's big news, we will cover it on Agenda Free TV. On YouTube, this is on Agenda Free TV too, but my main news channel on YouTube is Agenda Free TV. So subscribe to that and subscribe to this. And what was I going to say? I really appreciate all of your input during, this is like when we do News Roundup, it's like very interactive, and a big part of it is reading your comments. So I really appreciate all of your comments and input. Thank you for joining. Big thanks to everybody who donated. You are the reason that I can cover news and do my channels. It is your support. So I really appreciate the donations. That's very kind of you. If you do want to make a donation to the channel, you can go to agendafree.tv, agendafree.tv. But thank you so much. And that includes the super hearts and the Facebook stars. Oh no, I missed some Facebook donations. Oops. Star Fowler, thank you. Sabrina Peak, thank you. Oh, I didn't check it. I forgot to check. Star Fowler, Sabrina Peak, Swan Brown, Darren Thompson, Janet McLaughlin. Thank you. Darren Thompson, Janet McLaughlin, Swan Brown, Sabrina Peak, and Star Fowler. Maybe some of you are still watching. Thank you so much. It's very kind of you. Ari Mari. Annie Mari says, do you cover international news? Yes, I do cover international news. It just depends on the story. But I do cover it. We didn't really do it tonight. But I do cover it. And thanks, Tamara, for the super hearts. Okay, and a big thanks to our moderators. Let's give it up for them. They are the ones keeping it troll-free. They're volunteers. They are amazing. The moderators, they're the ones that keep the chat readable and handleable. So big ups to the moderators. Oh, by the way, our viewer says, yeah, I don't think the stream, I didn't hear the stream was hidden. Let's see. Nope, stream's not hidden. As Darren says. Sarah Joy was moderating. Mark Helton, thank you. Linda Belk, thank you, Linda, for moderating. Appreciate it. Maria B, Lizzie FTW, thank you. Bud Green was moderating. Thank you so much, Bud. I appreciate that, Bud. Oh, we have a comment from Kelly Bowden. She says, New South Wales and Australia, include Sydney, haven't had a reported case of COVID in over 20 days. Compare that with the United States. Then Swan says, that doesn't seem like a fair comparison. That was Swan's response. Anyways, Dan Lindquist was moderating too. Hey, thank you, Dan Lindquist, for moderating. And thank you to all our Twitch moderators too. Really appreciate it. Thank you, mods. Duckzor, Ellieborn, Idaho Star, Rift Tracks. And hey, if you have any interest in being a volunteer moderator, that would be awesome. Just reach out to the mods and you can ask them for more information about that. That would be great. Also, Discord notifications. Sign up for the Discord notifications. That's the best way to get notified when I'm coming on the air on any of my channels. It's free. It's easy. Just go, it's at the bottom of the YouTube video description. That's where that link is, and the moderators can post that link as well. All right, and again, right after this, I'm going to basically take off my tie, and then we're going to do a stream on Lookner channel. About 5 minutes after this, we're going to start, maybe 10 minutes after this, we're going to start a stream on Lookner channel. So head on over to the Lookner channel on YouTube, and we're going to be doing a stream there, our post-agenda free TV2 stream there. Linda says she didn't have to mute anyone tonight. Awesome. Hey, thanks to our viewers, J. Jacob Design, Ellen BRN, Ari Mari, who says check into Weasling exit scam. Hey, message me on Twitter about it. That's the place to reach me, at Lookner on Twitter. Toy Biederman, thanks for watching. Negro League Man. Ol Raj was watching. Thank you, Ol Raj. Ashley Stevie. All sold out. And our other Periscope viewers, thanks for watching there. Thank you to our Twitch viewers. Basa Supernova, thank you for watching. Barley Hops, Yang Chat. Cornhusker, LVBZ. C. Swigum, Victorious Zotby. And all of our Twitch viewers, thanks for watching there. Our Facebook viewers, Twilla McCord, thank you, Twilla, for watching. Alan Meyer Jensen, George Cogswell, Star Fowler, Julie Martinez, thanks for watching, Krista Barker, Nicolette Geese, and all of our other Facebook viewers and our YouTube viewers. Juno130, Matt Danger, Tony Del Monte, C. Michelle Sparks, Darren Markley, Robert Treep, who says from Antarctica. I don't think Robert's really in Antarctica. Arizona Jumper, Linda Birdbike, Shrubby, all the best. C. Michelle Sparks, Madison G. Lithrone, Ricky Field, thank you. Ann M., Darth Tater, Michelle Ryan, Kaylee N., El Loco Taco, Oric 3D, Baby Shark, Susie Q, Kay Gebhardt, and all of our other YouTube viewers. Ann M., Read is Real. All right, so let me wrap this up. I'm wrapping this up, and I'm going to go and head over to Lookner channel. We'll be doing a stream in a few minutes. So I hope to see you over at Lookner. If you've never watched Lookner, give it a shot. You can just go over there. I'll be on the air in like 10 minutes. 10, 15 minutes. Okay, OTR Monk, Keekerland, thank you for watching as well. All right, guys, so let me wrap this up. I'm going to get this done, and I'm heading over to Lookner channel. So we'll do a stream there. Okay, that is it, guys, for now. I will be on the Lookner channel in about 15 minutes, so I hope to see you there. Thank you for joining our live news roundup, and we will see you again with more news soon.